Is fibromyalgia real? Stay tuned. We're going to answer that question and a few more. Why does it seem like fibromyalgia barely existed 20 years ago, yet today millions of people, mostly women, are diagnosed with it? Is it a real physical condition or an offshoot of depression, stress, or trauma? And here's the question most people are afraid to ask out loud. If fibromyalgia is real, why can't doctors find it on scans or blood tests? Now, before we go any further, there's something important to say, especially on a channel for men. Men can get fibromyalgia too. It's less common, yes, but it absolutely happens. And even if you never experience it yourself, understanding fibromyalgia matters, because chances are a woman in your life has it or will at some point. A wife, a partner, a sister, a mother, a coworker. Understanding this condition isn't about politics or labels. It's about being a better man, someone who understands what the people around him may be dealing with, even when it isn't visible. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand what fibromyalgia actually is, why it's so controversial, and why dismissing it or blindly accepting it are both mistakes. This is the Triumph Channel. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most basic question. Yes, fibromyalgia is real. It's recognized by major medical organizations around the world. But here's the key thing most people miss. Fibromyalgia is not a disease of muscles or joints. It's a disorder of how the brain and nervous system process pain. In fibromyalgia, the volume knob on pain is turned way up. Signals that shouldn't hurt very much or at all are experienced as intense, persistent pain. That's why people with fibromyalgia often deal with widespread body pain, extreme fatigue, poor sleep, brain fog, and heightened sensitivity to touch, noise, light, and temperature. The pain is real, but the source of the pain is neurological, not structural. So why didn't fibromyalgia seem to exist 20 years ago? This is where skepticism usually comes in. People say, if fibromyalgia is real, why didn't anyone talk about it decades ago? The answer is simple. It did exist, it just had different names. Before modern neuroscience, doctors didn't have the tools to understand pain processing in the brain, so people with fibromyalgia-type symptoms were often labeled with terms like muscular rheumatism, chronic fatigue states, nervous disorders, or psychosomatic illness, and in many cases they were simply told nothing was wrong. Fibromyalgia didn't suddenly appear. Medicine finally caught up to what patients were experiencing. Historically, people with fibromyalgia-like symptoms were usually put into 3 boxes. They were misdiagnosed and told they had arthritis, autoimmune disease, or hormonal problems. They were dismissed because their tests looked normal. Or they were psycholyzed, told their symptoms were caused by stress, anxiety, or emotional problems, especially if they were women. In other words, people suffered quietly, without answers, and often without support. So is fibromyalgia just depression in disguise? No, it isn't, but the two often overlap. Depression affects mood and emotional regulation. Fibromyalgia affects pain amplification. They share overlapping brain chemistry, things like serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, but one does not simply cause the other. Chronic pain leads to poor sleep. Poor sleep leads to fatigue. Fatigue and pain wear down mood, so depression often shows up alongside fibromyalgia, but it is not the root cause. Saying fibromyalgia is just depression is like saying migraines are just anxiety, because stress can trigger both. And here's where this gets really interesting. Understanding fibromyalgia forces us to confront how medicine treats pain, stress, and gender. Because once you understand how this condition works, the treatment approach starts to make sense. There is no single magic pill for fibromyalgia. The most effective approach is multi-layered, not medication only. The #1 priority is sleep. Poor sleep dramatically increases pain sensitivity. Restoring sleep often reduces pain more than medications ever do. Next, and this part is critical, comes gentle, consistent movement. This is where many people get bad advice. Some are told to push through the pain. Others are told to avoid movement altogether. Both approaches backfire. Too much intensity can flare symptoms. Too little movement leads to stiffness, weakness, and even more pain over time. What works best is low-impact, consistent movement that sends a clear message to the nervous system. You're safe, you can relax. Walking, swimming, light resistance training, slow, controlled mobility work, and yoga deserves special mention here. Not aggressive, competitive yoga, but gentle, restorative, or beginner-style yoga that emphasizes breathing, flexibility, and body awareness. Yoga does something unique for fibromyalgia. It combines movement with breath control. It calms the nervous system. It improves flexibility without high impact, and it helps retrain how the brain interprets physical sensations. For many people, yoga becomes a bridge, a way to move without fear, without overdoing it, and without feeling broken. The goal isn't athletic performance. The goal is teaching the nervous system that movement does not equal danger. Over time, that message alone can reduce pain sensitivity. Beyond movement, medications that target the nervous system, not muscles, can help regulate pain processing. Cognitive behavioral therapy can help retrain how the brain responds to pain signals, not because the pain isn't real, but because the brain plays a central role in how pain is experienced. And finally, stress regulation matters, through breathing, mindfulness, and trauma-informed therapy when appropriate. What usually doesn't work well: opioids, endless scans and tests, and passive treatments without movement. So why does fibromyalgia seem to affect women more than men? It's true. Women are diagnosed more often. Hormones influence pain perception. Women have different immune and nervous system responses. Women experience higher rates of chronic stress and trauma, and women are more likely to seek medical care. Men get fibromyalgia too, but they're less likely to report symptoms and less likely to be diagnosed. There's also a long history of women's pain being dismissed as emotional. Chronic pain can increase depression. Being ignored or told it's all in your head makes it worse. That doesn't mean fibromyalgia isn't real. It means the system often fails the people who have it. So, here's the bottom line. Fibromyalgia is real. It didn't suddenly appear. It was misunderstood for decades. It's not just depression. It's a nervous system disorder involving pain amplification. And treating it requires more than pills. It requires understanding how the brain, body, and stress all interact. On the Triumph channel, we don't dismiss suffering, but we also don't accept weak explanations. We believe in truth, clarity, and personal agency, especially when the answers are complicated.
This is the Triumph channel. For men, for life. If you felt this message, give this video a like, subscribe, and share it with a man who needs to hear it. We're building stronger men here, one video at a time. Stay strong, brother. Your story isn't over. It's just beginning.